Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 10th episode of Truth Tracker, a podcast dedicated to combating misinformation on various topics within the political scene of America. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Truth Tracker. Before we get started with today's episode, I just want to first start off by thanking everyone for their continued support of this podcast. It definitely means a lot, and I really appreciate it. With that being said, if you've enjoyed some of our past content, I highly encourage you to subscribe, like our past content, as well as turn on post notifications when you subscribe. That way, you can be notified anytime that our podcast releases one of our weekly episodes. And so, yeah, with that being said, there's no new announcements from me. We're just going to be continuing to make these episodes, especially as we get closer to the election, where it gets even more important to bust these, or to fight misinformation and ensure that there's accurate and verifiable information out there in the media. And so for this episode, we will be we will be finding some information regarding like U.S. foreign aid. And we will also be having our weekly civic engagement segment. And so essentially the layout is going to be, pretty similar as the last couple episodes. We're going to be busting 10 myths regarding foreign aid, as well as having obviously our weekly civic engagement segment. And so, with that being said, let's just get straight into it. And yep, welcome to the 10th episode of Truth Tracker, everyone. So, our first myth for today's episode is that all foreign aid is wasted. Now, many people often highlight, inefficiencies in aid delivery, as they may cite mismanagement as well as, bureaucratic hurdles that occur in various countries around the world. However, many aid programs actually undergo rigorous assessments to maximize their impact in the countries where aid is being delivered. Successful aid initiatives often involve, detailed planning, constant evaluation, as well as adaptation based on, local needs. Furthermore, many organizations also use, data-driven approaches to identify effective areas where funds can be allocated to ensure that are allocated where they are most needed. And so some of these examples, include focusing on health outcomes where targeted interventions have shown measurable successes, such as vaccination campaigns, which have dramatically reduced disease incidence. So that's just one instance where foreign aid has not been wasted. Most foreign aid is actually used in a very effective manner, as it has to undergo a lot of has to undergo first off rigorous evaluations and examinations in order to be sure that foreign aid is being used effectively and efficiently. And so this idea that countries are simply wasting the foreign aid that they receive is simply not true, as most of the foreign aid that they receive is closely monitored for optimization as well as efficiency purposes. And we got this information from the World Bank, and so that's a very trusted source. And so with that being said, yep, this whole notion and this myth that all foreign aid is wasted is simply not true. Our next myth is that foreign aid only benefits corrupt governments. Now, this myth sort of perpetuates this idea that aid merely props up and supports corrupt regimes, but it actually, ignores the mechanisms that can make sure that the aid is going to the people who need it the most. Many aid organizations and many governmental aid agencies implement strategies to ensure that funds reach these sort of grassroots initiatives. And so this may involve, um, direct transfer of aid to families, or maybe support for local non-governmental organizations, or aid programs that empower communities. And so through building these sort of local grassroots capacities and involving community members in the transfer of aid, um, aid can bypass, corrupt governments and corrupt officials and foster genuine development and support in these countries. And so that allows the aid to be delivered to the people that need it the most, instead of just propping up corrupt regimes. And this is all done, through various aid agencies and aid organizations, making sure, having a close examination and a close oversight on where the aid is going and how it is being spent. And so this whole notion that foreign aid only benefits corrupt governments is simply not true, as most foreign aid is ensure is uh, most foreign aid is verified and make in people in organizations make sure that that foreign aid is going to grassroots initiatives which ensure that the people that need it the most receive the foreign aid. And we got this information from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So that's again a very trusted source that produces very accurate and verifiable information regarding this topic. And so to wrap this up, the fact that foreign aid only benefits corrupt governments, that myth is simply not true. Our next myth is that foreign aid is ineffective for long term development. Now, many people often state that foreign aid provides only temporary relief without, fostering sustainable growth. However, many aid initiatives, from the government, from organizations, are designed specifically to address, long-term developmental challenges within countries around the world. Effective foreign aid focuses on, building a long-term resilience and capacity in communities. If we want to look at an example, investments in education and infrastructure in countries have been shown to create lasting improvements in the quality of life as well as economic stability. Furthermore, programs that provide skills training, support for local businesses, job training, and access to resources empower communities to generate their own growth. And so those are two examples right there where foreign aid has been used to spur long-term development that has been created by the community itself. And so, that shows how foreign aid is actually an effective vessel. Foreign aid is an effective vessel for long-term development. Furthermore, there's also many agriculture programs which serve as another example as they enhance food security and increase local productivity for agriculture in the long run, in the long term, in these local communities that receive this foreign aid. And so all these examples sort of show that, well structured and effective foreign aid can actually lead to significant enduring benefits in these countries. And so at the end of the day, so at the end of the day, this sort of idea that foreign aid is ineffective for creating long-term development in countries is simply not true. And we got this information from the International Fund for Agricultural Development. So this is another very reputable organization that produces accurate information regarding the or in the sphere for or in the world for foreign aid. And so at the end of the day, this myth that foreign aid is ineffective for long-term development in countries is simply not true, as there have been many examples where effective foreign aid initiatives have worked to address long-term developmental challenges, as well as develop some solutions that foster long-term development. The next myth is that foreign aid creates dependency between countries. Now, many people argue that consistent aid can lead to a lack of self-sufficiency among recipient countries. However, many aid programs actually reach out to or the purpose of many aid programs is actually to build local capacity and self-reliance rather than create dependency among recipient and donor countries. Effective foreign aid focuses on empowering communities by providing training, resources, and skills that lead to sustainable development. For example, there have been many foreign aid programs that emphasize, or in the world of education, that emphasize education and vocational training that can, equip individuals with the tools to create their own economic opportunities, which in the long term ends up reducing long-term reliance on external aid. And so this showcases how through the use of foreign aid, this a country recipient countries can build self-sufficiency and self-reliancy among various different sectors such as the economy, agriculture, or housing or education. And so the goal of foreign aid is to foster environments where communities can thrive independently. And so at the end of the day, there have been multiple studies, research studies, and data that's been released that shows that foreign aid does not create a dependency, but instead is focused on empowering communities to, or promotes self-reliancy and promotes self-reliancy among communities through providing foreign aid. And so uh, and so this myth that foreign aid creates dependency is simply not true, and we got this information from the Harvard Business Review. And so yeah, with that being said, foreign aid has been proven that it actually boosts self-sufficiency among recipient countries. And so this notion that foreign aid creates dependency, this myth that foreign aid creates dependency, is simply not true. Our next myth is that all foreign aid is the same. Now, foreign aid is often generalized into this one overarching term, especially in the media, but it actually encompasses a wide array of programs aimed at various objectives such as humanitarian relief, economic development, as well as long-term institution building. And so different types of aid serve different types of purposes. For example, if we want to look at humanitarian aid, for example, humanitarian aid responds to immediate crises, while development aid focuses on long-term improvements in the worlds of healthcare, education, agriculture, the economy, and infrastructure. And so tailoring aid to the specific context and the needs of recipient countries actually enhances its effectiveness. And so programs designed for local conditions and priorities are actually often more successful in achieving, their attended outcomes. And so this sort of idea that foreign aid is um, generalized and is homogeneous and is the same is simply not true. There's many different types of foreign aid that each have a different array of, or have a different purpose, and have been used in various contexts around the world. And we got this information from the United Nations. The next myth is that foreign aid is not needed anymore in the world. Now, some argue, or many people have said that due to globalization and economic growth, um, the necessity for foreign aid has been reduced. However, there are still many regions throughout the world which still face significant challenges, such as persistent poverty, health crisis, and the impacts of climate change disasters. And so these crises often underscore the ongoing need for foreign aid. For example, there's constant conflicts around the world which can displace populations and disrupt local economies, which actually require foreign aid and international support for recovery and rebuilding efforts. Additionally, global challenges like, for example, pandemics like the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as environmental disasters, require, coordinated aid responses to mitigate harmful effects in these local communities. And so the sort of idea that foreign aid is not needed anymore due to globalization and economic growth is simply not true, as there's going to be new challenges and new crises that occur which will require foreign aid to ensure that these communities which have been struck by disaster are able to rebound and bounce back and thrive. And we got this information from the World Economic Forum. The next myth is that foreign aid is only effective in times of crisis. Now, while emergency aid is vital during disasters, long-term development aid or long-term development aid plays an equally crucial role in building resilience. And so it's not only in times of crisis where foreign aid is useful and effective, it's actually useful, even when there's not a crisis, as it can promote, long-term development in local communities. Development initiatives that focus on healthcare, education, agriculture, infrastructure, and economic empowerment help communities prepare for and actually respond to future crises. For example, improving local healthcare systems can lead to better health outcomes, which reduce the need for emergency interventions around the world. And so, sustainable development can also create a foundation for stability, which can enable communities to thrive better and can enable, recipient countries of foreign aid to thrive and better withstand, shocks. And so, this idea that foreign aid is only effective in times of crisis is simply not true. It's effective at any time because it can promote, long-term development and allow recipient countries to prepare for future crises and address them, as well as make sure that they're, rebounding and thriving as communities and setting themselves up for success in the future. And so this myth that foreign aid is only effective in times of crisis is simply not true. And we got this information from the United Nations Development Program, otherwise known as the UNDP, so the United Nations Development Program. And so I guess another sort of common pattern that you can take from all these different myths that we've busted are the I guess the accuracy and or the accuracy of our resources. We've used very accurate, dependable, and very verifiable resources that produce accurate information regarding the in if they produce accurate information in the world of foreign aid. And so it's important for anyone that is especially researching the political issue of foreign aid to make sure that they are getting accurate information, because there is a lot of misinformation regarding this issue. So it's important to always find your information from verifiable sources, as well as cross check and fact check your sources and make sure that the media and the information that you are consuming is accurate. And so, with that being said, this myth that foreign aid is only effective in times of crisis is simply not true. The next myth is that foreign aid has no accountability. Now, it is true that some foreign aid has no accountability, and there may be some certain instances where foreign aid is misused. However, many organizations and donors have implemented widespread and strict oversight mechanisms. Aid organizations often undergo independent audits and evaluations to ensure transparency and accountability, which ensures that foreign aid is being used efficiently in recipient countries. Furthermore, this may include, regular reporting on outcomes and financial expenditures, for example. Partnerships with local governments and communities can also enhance accountability, as they can provide feedback and insights into the effectiveness and the efficiency of the aid initiatives that are currently being run in recipient countries. So this sort of collaborative and diverse approach fosters greater responsibility and accountability in aid delivery, which is currently occurring in a wide array of aid organizations as well as governmental aid agencies. And so this sort of idea that there is a widespread that the foreign aid currently has this no lack accountability on a widespread scale is simply not true, as even though there may be small instances where foreign aid is misused, the foreign aid often on a widespread scale is very accountable, and the use of it is strictly monitored and has a lot of oversight and is held to a very high standard, and there's a lot of accountability regarding it. And so we got this information from Transparency International. And so at the end of the day, this is another accurate source that produces accurate information regarding this topic. And so at the end of the day, this notion that on a widespread scale foreign aid has no accountability is simply not true. Our next myth is that foreign aid undermines local economies. Now, some people have said in the past that foreign aid disrupts local markets and discourages self-sufficiency in the economic market of these recipient countries for foreign aid. However, many aid programs are actually often designed to complement and stimulate, local economies rather than undermine them. Because there's many examples where effective aid can enhance local economic activities by investing in infrastructure, providing technological assistance, and supporting local businesses. For example, if you want to look at the world of agriculture, foreign aid aimed at improving agricultural practices can increase productivity, benefit local farmers, and create more agricultural jobs, which boosts the local economy. By focusing on sustainable development and capacity building, aid can create a more robust, diverse, and widespread economic environment, which empowers these recipient communities to thrive independently and actually fosters self sufficiency rather than dependability. And so, this collaborative approach ensures that aid acts as a sort of catalyst for growth, for economic growth, rather than an obstacle for economic growth. And so, and again, the source, or another again, a very we got this information from the World Bank, which is a very reputable source and produces many accurate information regarding the world of economics and foreign aid. So this idea that foreign aid, for some reason undermines local economies is not true, as there have been many instances and many studies and many research that has been released that shows that foreign aid actually stimulates and local economies to grow to new heights rather than undermine them. Lastly, our final myth for today, or so yeah, I mean, that being said, this myth that sort of foreign aid undermines local economies is simply not true. And now we're going to get into this last myth. So now our last myth for today is that foreign aid perpetuates poverty rather than alleviating it. And so Many people have said that foreign aid can actually sometimes lead to dependency and undermine and create poverty. But many successful initiatives show that aid can be a can aid foreign aid can be used to as a foreign aid can be used to reduce poverty around the world. Many well-designed foreign aid programs often focus on empowering individuals and communities to lift themselves out of poverty and create self-sufficiency. For example, if you want to take a look at the world of microfinance initiatives create or provide access to capital for entrepreneurs, or provide access to capital and money for entrepreneurs, which enable them to start businesses and create better jobs and expand and really rise out of poverty. Furthermore, education focused programs enhance skills and employability and lead to better income opportunities and more opportunities provide to increase and accumulate wealth, which helps people rise out of poverty uh, rather than perpetuate poverty. There's many. The research indicates currently that targeted foreign aid can significantly reduce poverty levels when it aligns with local needs and priorities, which can help foster sustainable development. And so this sort of notion that foreign aid is harmful for poverty reduction initiatives is simply not true, as there's been many studies that have showcased many successful foreign aid initiatives where they have been used to help reduce poverty in recipient countries rather than hinder it. And so, rather than hinder poverty reduction programs. And we got this information from the United Nations Development Program. So, this sort of myth that foreign aid perpetuates poverty rather than alleviating it is simply not true. And so that wraps up our misinformation segment for today. Now we will be getting into our weekly civic engagement segment. And so obviously now I think we are about 1 month away from the election. It becomes super important that everyone utilizes their right to vote. Voting is one of the rights that our Constitution provides us, and it's super important that we use our right to vote to ensure that we're holding our elected officials accountable, and that way we're acting as a catalyst for the positive change that we want to see in our own communities. Voting allows us to showcase our voice and what we want to believe in, or what we believe in, and what policies we want to be enacted in the United States of America. Furthermore, it actually allows us to sort of showcase the vision for where we want America to go and sort of the America that we want to all create together. And so, no matter which candidate or which party you support, it's super important that you get out there to vote and use your power and your duty to vote in order to express your story, your voice, and your beliefs. Furthermore, if you look at voting, it's an important civic duty, and so if you feel passionate about a topic like foreign aid, for example, it's important that you vote for the candidate that most aligns with your beliefs regarding foreign aid, and get out in order to advocate first off for the policies that you want to see in America, but also hold elected officials accountable as well. Furthermore, voting allows you to really drive local community change and you know advocate for policies and programs that you believe will benefit your local community, and so you can act as a sort of catalyst for growth. So at the end of the day, voting, furthermore, if you look at America, America is a democracy, and so democracy only works when everyone participates in it. And the way people participate in democracy is by voting and being civically and politically engaged. And so, therefore, I highly encourage everyone, if you haven't already done, make sure to register make sure to register for election day, before election day, and get out there and vote, and make sure that you are using your voice in order to advocate for the policies that you believe in. No matter what candidate you support or what party you support, it's important that you get out there and vote. So I highly encourage everyone to get out there and vote in this election. And yeah, because that allows you to share your voice with the rest of the country. And so everyone, make sure to get out there and vote, as it is your civic duty. And so, with that being said, that should be it for today's episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. If you have been enjoying this episode, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications. That way, you can be notified anytime we post one of our weekly episodes. And so, with that being said, that wraps up today. We busted 10 myths regarding U.S. foreign aid, as well as held a civic engagement segment. And so, yep. With that being said, that's it for today's episode, everyone. Have a great day. Goodbye.